Hey, everybody. Welcome to Another Bad Call, the podcast that proves the refs aren't the only ones who get it wrong. I'm JD, and with me as always, oh, good Lord, we're off to a rough start. As always, is big brother Justin. How you doing tonight, buddy?
I'm doing well. Yourself?
Apparently, that one sip of wine is messing me up. I can't talk.
Oh, boy.
Yikes.
Uh-oh.
Yikes. Yeah, we're in for some trouble here. It is Monday, September 9th. Monday Night Football, first night. We're don't mind us as we look down, left, right, everywhere to try to figure out what's going on in the game. We're going to try to make this quick for you guys today, too. We have regular season NFL action to talk about. Finally, we are finishing up week one here with this Monday night game. And as I look down, San Francisco is on the cusp of scoring. We are going to go over some scores. We're going to do some quick news and notes. We have a quick segment to try, brand new. And then, of course, we will also do our bad calls of the week. What do you say? We ready to get into it real quick?
Yeah.
All right. Let's do that quick score rundown. We started off Thursday night with the Ravens and Chiefs. The Chiefs take that one 27-20. Then we go to Friday night in Brazil. First game in Brazil, and the Eagles end up beating the Packers 34-29. We'll get more into that a little bit later. Steelers go into Atlanta and upset the Falcons. Many call that an upset anyway, 18-10. Bills go take down the Cardinals at home, 34-28. Bears beat the Titans 24-17 in Caleb Williams' home debut. We'll talk more about that later as well. The other big upset, Patriots ruin everybody's survivor pools at 16-10 over the Bengals. Texans win a close one against the Colts, 29-27. Dolphins beat the Jaguars. I believe a walk-off kick on that one, 20-17 as well. Saints absolutely destroy the Panthers, 47-10. I'm surprised the Panthers even scored in that game. Vikings 28-6. That one has to be pretty embarrassing for the Giants. They were wearing their old unis. Yeah, not great there. Chargers 22-10. Jim Harbaugh comes back in the NFL with a win. J.K. Dobbins looking pretty good in that one. Seahawks over Broncos 26-20. I feel like that game wasn't as close as that score indicates, but again, we can talk about that later if we want to. Cowboys go to Cleveland and just hand it to the Browns, 33-17. Both teams 11 penalties. I was doing some research. Both teams 11 penalties. That one interesting. Buccaneers 37-20. Baker Mayfield 4 tutty tosses in that one. 2 of those to Mike Evans. Last night we had a little bit of overtime action. The Lions and the Rams. Stafford comes back to Detroit and loses 26-20 with a David Montgomery touchdown in overtime. And I am missing the score of this game right now. Oh, it is 23-17. I just missed the score. Who just scored the last time? Was that a Jordan Mason? It was the Jordan Mason touchdown. You are muted, sir. I don't have volume on you.
See what
There
happens when I try to be professional and I mute myself. Pretty
Were you cheering?
embarrassing rookie mistake. I feel like Evan Silva right now. But yeah, no, Jordan Mason, anytime touchdown, that's money in the bank for me.
I like it. I'm still waiting on that Garrett Wilson touchdown. I'm gonna need that one.
Yeah.
Hit my and actually, just for funsies, I did a nice little $2 bet on an anytime Aaron Rodgers touchdown too. See if he still tries to test those wheels out. You know me. Throw the darts and see what happens.
Sure. Why not?
All right, so we ran through all those scores. Any of those games, obviously outside of the Bears game, because we'll touch base on that later. Any of that jump out at you?
Well, obviously the Chiefs-Ravens game was a blast just to start out the season that way. Really, really good, fun football at the start of the year. Obviously the Packers-Eagles game was interesting as well. A lot of action in that one. We'll get to Jordan Love here in a minute, but that could have some big repercussions for the NFC. The field was trash. Looked like Soldier Field after a concert game down there. I really hate to point this out, but Nats Steelers are in first place in that division as all 3 other teams lost. But one of the we're always going to have a little bit of an eye on what Justin Fields is doing, and the pass chart that he put out there. He didn't throw one single ball inside the numbers all day. I don't know how that happens, but it didn't lead to any end zone drives. What did they have? 6 field goals, right?
Don't mind me pulling up next gen stats to look at that pass chart right now, just because I'm curious.
Yeah, it was pretty wild.
Where are you, Justin Fields?
You touched on the Bengals Patriots. That was definitely a killer for Super Contest.
Oh, well, he really did not have a pass, not even an attempt. Not an
right.
Interesting. Arthur Smith. Hey, they got the W. He did not cost them the game. So
I was shocked that Sam Darnold, the most passing yards of any other quarterback, that probably would have been a nice payoff if you bet him to have the most passing yards for the week.
yeah, I'm hesitant. It's week 1. Everybody's into the overreactions, right? I almost had a segment for us called "Hold Your Horses," where we were like, "All right, let's pump the brakes," but maybe we'll come back to that. But it would have been really good for after week 1. I mean, their head coach did such a good job with whatever quarterback he could pull off the street. Once Cousins went down, there's some assumption there that you've got Jefferson, you had Addison, you had Hawkinson at the time, you had Osborne, like you had all these playmakers there. They did it without Hawkinson, right? You get Jefferson back. Aaron Jones played, the healthiest Aaron Jones you're going to get is week 1 Aaron Jones. So, it showed up. There's part of me that really, I don't want to root for a division rival, but at the same time, Darnold he had such a tumultuous start to his career because of where he started and how everything's went. And he's just kept plugging along. And now he's in a position where he could actually have a decent one. Oh dear. Tip pick. Sorry. I looked down as I was talking to see it tip. Adam Sandler joins the Manning cast and it gets tip pick. I don't know who to start to. We got a flag though. Let's see what happens.
Okay. Well, we're a little bit off
all right,
as would be with the streaming, but
I won't talk about it too much anymore.
However, what I wanted to say, there's probably 2 teams that were most surprising to me with their performance. The Buccaneers were really solid.
Okay.
Baker Mayfield, 289 yards, 4 touchdown passes. I kind of was writing them. Obviously, yours a hold your horses type deal, but I kind of writing them off. Their receiving core is getting a little bit older and everything like that, and they were playing the Commanders, but they were. I was impressed by them. I was impressed by the Cowboys, how efficient they were against the Browns defense that supposedly is good. I don't know how good they are actually, but I was impressed with all that they had going on with all of the different contract things and everything in this offseason. I was impressed by them.
Yeah, I mean, Dak, we'll touch base on this too, but he gets paid, 2-3 hours before game time or whatever, and goes out and plays. I'm really glad you brought up the Buccaneers thing because in our fantasy football group chat, there's, I'm going to call him a genius so I don't use other words. And he's a Bucs fan, and he was like, "Man, Bayfield looks sharp. Like they did so good." He goes what 289, 4 touchdowns, right?
Mm-hmm.
Everybody's really quick to point out Justin Fields is so bad; he's not really a good quarterback. Last year, Justin Fields goes into Washington, 15 of 29, 282 yards and 4 touchdowns. So 7 yards less, 4 touchdowns. Doesn't have his rushing yards in here. No, it does. 57 rushing yards as well on top.
Best
So
game of his career, probably.
let's pump the brakes, right? Like the Commanders defense, we know what it is. Like we know it's not real good. The offense obviously played better. Like the Washington offense, Jaden Daniels looked exciting, right? Uh, didn't light the world on fire, but still pretty good, pretty good debut for your number 2 overall pick. But that defense is still that defense. And there's still a new coaching staff and everything's still going on there. So while the Bucks had a great game, I'm not going to take that away from them. I think everybody needs to pump the brakes with the hold your horses bit of it. Of okay, it's one game and it's the Commanders.
Yeah, look, it's week 1. We don't have anything else to go off of because you can't count on anything that happened in the preseason.
Right. So, all right. So before we get into some news and notes, I got to tell you this, a quick family story. I told you about how we did a draft, right? Like there's 4 in my family, my wife and our 2 sons, they're homeschooled. And I wanted to figure out how I could start breeding some fandom. So we all drafted one team from each division, blind draw, because that's the fairest way to do it. My youngest son, his first 3 picks, Chiefs, Ravens, Lions. Dude just pulls out straight division winners, just pop. I was like, man, that's just not right. Meanwhile, my other son, poor kid, Broncos, right? That was his first hit. Bengals. I was like, okay, that's not too bad. And then he got the Bears, so I was happy for him. Like he was thrilled he got the Bears, right? Because that's Dad's team.
Yeah.
He followed it up with the Panthers, and I was just like, buddy, I felt so bad for him because I'm like, you don't have a shot at all, right? Like we're gonna follow wins, losses, points scored. Whoever has the most wins at the end of the year gets a prize, that type of thing. He just drew bottom of the pile. Luckily,
told him.
Luckily, he grabbed the Eagles as well, so he at least got and team to get up there. Just pretty funny stuff that it went Chiefs, Ravens, Lions, and for my youngest and my oldest kid, just you're scraping bottom of the barrel the whole way. But so we'll be keeping track on that. Maybe I'll add that in while we're going to say, hey, let's see how everybody's doing. But I think with that, we want to move on to some news and notes, keep this thing rolling.
Yeah, absolutely.
But before we do, if you've stuck around this long, first of all, thank you. Go ahead and hit that like and subscribe so you know when the new episodes drop. It's completely free, totally helps the channel out. We really appreciate it. All right, let's start here with our news and notes. Jamar Chase's comments on his contract. It had been reported that he just wants a penny more than Justin Jefferson. And they interviewed him at his locker, and he said, nah, I want to beat the shit out of Justin. That's now taken out of context. That's not a good thing. But since you're talking about the contract, listen, if I wanted to beat Justin, I want my contract to beat the shit out of it. Like he wants that money, right? He ends up suiting up, playing Sunday. I'll be honest, I didn't pay a whole lot of attention. Not a huge Jamar Chase guy. I think he's very talented. I'm just not a personal fan. Did you watch him play at all? Did you pay attention?
I did not catch a lot of that game. I was like scoreboard watching on that one. Had some things going on. So I was tied to a single screen on my phone while my son was at football practice.
Oh, that's right. You had the flag football. Yep.
So, but I didn't expect much out of him this week. That team almost seemed like they were quitting, and there was such a bad culture in Cincinnati for so long, and it seemed like it had gotten turned around a little bit. But some of that seems to maybe be creeping back in, which is a shame because they got some real good talent, young talent there and everything. But the T. Higgins thing, almost to me seemed like it was silent, oh, I'm hurt, I'm not going to play, kind of hold out in solidarity with Jamar, and
You think
I
so?
don't know.
I
Or
mean, that got announced
or
early
I'm
in the
not going to
week.
put myself on the line at all because of the
Yeah, that's
franchise
fair.
tag or whatever. But
I mean, Chase was. I mean, it'd come out that if he played, he'd be on a snap count. He 6 targets, 6 receptions for 62 yards. Decent game. For what it was. But yeah, I mean, you got Chase on a snap count, no T Higgins. It was a trap game and it caught. I know the survivor pool I was in was 31%, but just some funny comments, right? To me. Speaking of contracts, Dak does get his deal we mentioned earlier. 4 years, $240 million, with 231 of that guaranteed, which I believe makes him the highest paid QB in the league right now, right? Record setting. Let's see.
60 per, man. That whew.
Yeah, right.
Jerry said he hopes that Dak is the last quarterback of his lifetime. Now, he didn't specify that his lifetime was only going to be within the frame of these 4 years, but
Right. Yeah,
kind of funny.
we're not wishing that on anybody,
No,
especially after the news. I don't know if you saw James Earl Jones today. That's passed away at 93. Very, very depressing.
yeah.
Let's see. We also had some. This was a wild pregame Sunday.
This was going to be my bad call, but I decided we'd just leave it in the news and notes.
Yeah. So I'm gonna stay away from all the ins and outs of this because I don't want to get wrapped up in anything. Tyreek Hill gets.
I'm one to touch the
Yeah.
fire,
you play in the fire, and I'm holding my s'more from about 8 feet out. Look, Hill gets arrested. The body cam
not arrested. They made it. He got detained.
Detained.
They were
bad wording.
Very specific to say he was not arrested.
He gets detained. Kind of dragged out of his car.
He got dragged out. He got thrown around,
thrown on the ground, handcuffed. Calais Campbell ends up getting handcuffed too. Like I was watching the body cam footage. Yeah, very interesting situation. I will tell you this: as soon as I saw that he was going to play, I went, "Ooh, Scotty Scheffler," and put him in all of my DK lineups. I was like, Tyreek Hill, like he's playing, and it paid off. It didn't for a while, but it paid off.
I needed a second touchdown from him to really to hit one of the parlays, but
that would have been nice. Speaking of charges, Yahoo came out with an article today that Deshaun Watson is facing new charges, not exactly related to the previous ones, but very much in line with the same type of behavior. The article itself was uncomfortable to read, so I don't think we really need to get too down into
what
it.
What a creep. I read the article.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not new news. The guy's a creep. However, I mean, are the Browns digging for anybody that they can to get out of his contract in some way, shape, or form? Because he's as bad of a quarterback as he is a person at this point.
That's not great. Again, I'm not gonna touch it because it gets very sensitive. I'm not gonna touch any of that stuff, which goes along with the article. So go read it. Yahoo Sports. Not great. Let's move on to some other stuff here. Let's get the injuries out of the way. Roma Dunze, this one hits home. Looked like he kind of got rolled up on a screen pass, then blocking hurt his knee. Looks like maybe a MCL sprain or a knee sprain, and he's going to be week to week. So hopefully avoid anything major.
One, which is about the best thing that you could hope for.
Right,
means nothing, but just judging by his body language and the way he spoke at his locker after the game, he didn't seem too overly concerned about it. So
right, and he's young. He's 23 or 22 or whatever. So a knee sprain to him is not as bad as it would be to you or I that would put us down for a month or whatever.
Life.
Let's keep going on some of these injuries. Jake Ferguson gets an MCL sprain. which he's lucky to get away with. I saw that one that did not look good. I did not see the David Njoku injury, but that looks like an ankle sprain, possibly a high ankle sprain. Puka Nakua, they are putting him on IR with a knee injury that has been bothering him and flared up in that game last night. And
that
then, of
one's
course,
crazy. You know, Cooper Cup really becomes an interesting prospect in fantasy football with Puka
I was
down.
high on Cup before that.
Well, yeah, no, I was
but
too.
yeah.
I drafted him in one of my best ball teams ahead of Puka because I figured it healthy he was. But you know, look what happened. He got 20 targets last night.
Yeah, 14 catches, over 100 yards and the touchdown.
Yeah.
Still getting it done. And then the other, the bigger one for Friday night, Jordan Love. He's they're calling it a knee sprain, not putting him on IR 3 to 4 weeks. I'll tell you what, like through the gamut on this one. First of all, you know, I'll let you say your piece on this in a minute. We are not Packers fans, obviously, because we're big Bears fans. But I hate seeing players get hurt like that. Wish him a speedy recovery or whatever. That looked like, I mean, in a span of like 24 hours, it was his season's over. It's going to be 8 weeks. He's on IR. Now it's 3 to 6. Now it's 3 to 4. They're not going to put him on IR. They're just going to see what happens. That's crazy to me.
You said it right. We are not Packers fans. I'm the furthest thing from a Packers fan. I don't want to see anybody get hurt. When I saw the video of his knee obviously displaced from its normal position, I got a real sick feeling. But I'm not sad for the Packers fans. I'll tell you that much.
Oh, I'm not sad for Packers fans. I just feel for the guy getting hurt like that. You know, I don't ever want to see anybody get hurt.
No, don't. I completely agree. Don't want to see anybody get hurt. Never want to see the Packers win. So,
the last little bit of news, and I'm not even going to call this news because I sent this to you earlier. It was the Anthony Richardson passing chart on Next Gen Stat. You mentioned Justin Fields earlier. His pass chart shows that he doesn't even attempt to pass inside the numbers. Anthony Richardson, he had this play where he like slipped, and then before he's even really fully back to his feet, just launches this ball like 60 plus yards to Alec Pearson, like on a dime.
One of the sickest throws I've ever seen. I mean, basically, I don't even want to see his back foot. He slipped and he was like steadying himself, almost flat foot, straight upright, up and down, not even like in any sort of athletic position, and just launches the ball like way up in the air, and it was beautiful.
Yeah. So I'm showing this pass chart up on the screen. You can see that they don't even show, like, it's so far that it doesn't even make it. It doesn't even make it to the end of the chart there. So that made me really curious. I'm gonna go ahead and stop sharing this really quick. That made me really curious. I went and looked to see over week ones, just week ones, right? Over the last, I think it goes back to 2016. I was looking at the, what was it, max completed distance or max completed air distance, because I was curious about his air yards. His intended air yards, his average intended air yards was 16.48 yards, which is the most since 2016. Beating out second place by about 5 yards, 4.9 yards, which was Ryan Fitzpatrick in 2018. Right below him, Chicago's very own Jay Cutler at 10.9. So, like, it's not even close in the intended yards. He was just bombing them out there. Bombing them. The funny thing to me is he completed 9 passes for like 212 yards or something like that. Nine passes, he's averaging over 20 yards a pass, like a completion. Just crazy. Now, granted, you take out that 65. I mean, you're still, 8 for 150 or whatever, but still. Yeah. Just funny. He's got an arm on him. If he can stay healthy, he's going to be pretty dangerous.
He's definitely a fantasy unicorn with the type of play. Don't
Yeah.
know if he's going to be able to stay healthy with the way he plays, but
Right. It's not often you see 9 completions with a QB rating over 100, but he managed to pull it off just because of the yardage and the touchdowns with it. So
yeah.
good for him. All right, that feels like a really good time to move into our yay or nay here. So that's going to be this segment. Real simple. I'm just going to throw out an idea, a little bit off the wall type of thing, and you're going to say yay. Basically, I agree with you, or nay. You're an idiot, and tell me why. All right. So the first one I'm going to go with is we will see a 70-yard field goal this season. I'm not going to say attempt. I'm going to say a made 70-yard field goal this season. I am really disappointed because in that Cowboys game, Aubrey at the end of the first half, he kicks a 66-yarder, makes the 66-yarder without any problems, but it gets called off. They had to delay a game. They move back 5 yards, and they elect to punt. The game was pretty much in hand. I mean, Cowboys were doing what they wanted. They should have kicked that field goal. I'm really disappointed. So I'm saying we will see a 70-yard field goal this season.
I'm going to say nay just because I feel like they're too chicken to go to attempt it and miss it and give up that kind of field position that they would be giving up. But if anyone could do it, it would be Aubrey in the Jerry Dome. The dude is a cheat code in fantasy. I got made fun of because I paid $2 for him in my fantasy auction draft. I had him last year. The guy would have finished somewhere right around a wide receiver 2 in 12-team leagues.
That's crazy.
With his point totals. He got me 21 points. Before tonight, I haven't checked lately, but before tonight, he was my highest scoring player on the week, and I'm not having a bad week. So,
right.
There are a few guys that definitely possess the leg. I think he's probably the number one candidate to do it at this point, but I just, unless it's, yeah, I don't know. I don't know what situation it would be, like the end of a half or the end of a game or something, with when they're guaranteed no time left. But certainly be fun to see. The record is what, 66. So
Yep.
you're I'm not. I think it'll happen at some point, but I'm not sure that it will happen this year.
All right, fair enough. All right. So we've got one nay here. All right. Here's my next one. Guardian caps, which for those of you that may not know, they look like big, like little soundboards up around the helmet or whatever, and then they put like a big fabric over it, so it looks like a Spaceballs type helmet on them. I'm saying they are going to be mandatory in 2025.
I'm going to say nay on this one, and I've got my reasoning.
Right.
Not because of their effectiveness, but because of the visual of what they look like on the field. And, unless they can figure out a way to make them look or incorporate the technology into the helmet a little bit more so that you get the benefit of it, but they can still have their shiny helmets and stuff like that out on the field. It's part of the marketing and the look of the players on the field, and that's why I don't think they will make it mandatory.
So I'm really glad you brought up the marketing part, because that's going to lead into this next little thing that we're going to say. There are a couple players using them this year, electing. They've given them the option. A couple players are using it. I'm really curious. My reasoning behind it is that if we continue to see, a certain level of concussions, but none of them happen to any of the players using the Guardian caps, I think that's what's going to be the thing to kick it in. So there was a story out. Oklahoma State was going to put QR codes on their helmets that basically allowed fans to scan it and go donate to the name, image, and likeness pages, right, for the players and for the school, which I thought was a very interesting way. It's creative. I appreciate it, as long as the money goes to the right spots, right? NCAA came in and said, no, you're not doing that. Basically, because they don't have their hand in the jar. So, at least that's my take on it. This goes in hand with especially if they go to the Guardian caps, there will be plenty of space for the NFL to put QR codes on that say, buy tickets, buy this player's jersey, right? Like, you want this player's jersey, just buy it right there. Scan this guy's helmet. So,
but
NFL will have QR codes on their helmets.
What kind of reach does that
Next year.
get? Because, like, what are you going to do? Pause your TV and, hold up your phone to scan the QR code on the helmet?
How many people are already watching those?
Not that many people get close enough to a player that they're going to be able to get a good scan on a helmet.
You know what I'm surprised about now that we're talking about this? I'm surprised when they do the whole, like, the player introductions where they name off their, some of them middle school at this point in time, that they don't already have that, like, as part of it, of like, here's your starting lineup, just boop, 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 and scan it and go. I just say the NFL, what we've seen them do for a money grab standpoint, I will not be surprised at all to find that on helmets by next season.
I mean, I didn't hate it. Like, I thought it was a good idea for marketing. Not that they would actually get a lot of people scanning that code on those helmets, but just because it got people talking about it.
Well, and you know what? If they really wanted to, you make it so that when you scan that, you get entered into like a drawing or something for a free jersey. People start pausing and scanning real quick. Especially since a lot of people anymore, I'm sure, are watching on their mobile devices and can just screenshot that stuff real quick. So, all right. So I am going to pose this next one, and this was going to kind of be more of a question. And to be fair, these were all written down about, a month ago. I've been holding on to this segment. So this is pre-week one. This was even I think this was after week one of the preseason. Will Luke Getsy survive the season as the offense coordinator for the Raiders? I say no.
I could see it happening. I'm not Antonio Pierce. I like the guy. I think he did a good job rallying that team last year, but he's gonna need something to happen, and I'm not sure that pairing Will Getsy with a couple of bottom 5% quarterbacks on a team that's not well rounded,
Yeah.
Max Crosby got neutralized by Joe Alt in that game yesterday.
Man, without Joe Alt looked good. Yeah.
Without him, it's just that team is going to struggle. Like I said, I think most of the AFC West is going to struggle. And so teams that don't do well, there's usually some sort of change. Getsy, I don't know why they chose him. Was he the only one that could agree to come there? I don't know.
Yeah. I was laughing as I knew we were going to do this segment, and I was watching the game earlier on, watching Nathaniel Hackett on the sidelines with his call sheet, and just me thinking all he's doing is actually writing down what Aaron has run. Like, he's keeping track of how many times he'd run it, or asking Aaron, like, hey, what do you think we should do here? And not actually calling anything, because between him and Getsy, can either one of them actually call a game? We don't know, because it's always been Aaron Rodgers to give them any success. But all right. Speaking of Luke Getsy and what he's got to do with his QBs, Tyson Bagent will get traded to a QB needy team, and I'm going to add in Jameis Winston on this one. Though the Browns may need Jameis Winston at this point in time because of stuff going on. But originally, of course, this was Tyson Bagent. This was to goat Nat into a little bit of a frenzy.
Sure.
Does he get traded to a QB needy team this year?
Not unless somebody offers a serious draft haul to polls, because he likes that security blanket at this point.
It's fair. That's fair.
He's
All
a
right.
cheap
That was fun.
undrafted guy that, you know, they know that he can stand in and not cost you games, really.
Yeah, hopefully that's the case. All right. Well, that was fun. Maybe as the year goes on, I'll have a couple more of those. Like I said,
Maybe I should come
those
up with a list for you.
absolutely. Let's do that one. That'll be fun too.
There we go.
I'd like to hear what wildness will come out of that head. All right. Anything else you want to touch on before we move into what we're going to call main event?
No, let's get it.
All right. So main event, obviously, we are going to touch base on the Bears game. We'll touch base. I imagine we're going to spend quite a bit of time on this Bears game. So, Justin, I have been talking quite a bit. I'm going to take a sip of wine and let you get going on this.
All right. Yeah, Bears 23-17. What roller coaster of emotions that game was yesterday.
24.
24-17.
Right?
Yeah. Anyway, the Bears come out. We're all jazzed up for Caleb Williams. The defense was jazzed up from the start. The first couple possessions, they really nailed down the Titans. But when it was, Caleb looked nervous. He looked nervous. He was off on some of the throws, like not close. He wasn't careless with the ball, but to go along with his nervousness, the offensive line was not holding up well at all, especially the interior of that line. The center, Coleman Shelton, had a terrible game. Tevin Jenkins did not have a good game either. The Titans were getting so much penetration up the middle that Caleb was moving on the move a lot. He wasn't able to get into play. He tried to make a little something happen, took a big sack at one point. But I'm not discouraged. I don't think, there's a few things that happened within that game that showed me that he's going to be a quick learner. He's going to figure this thing out. He had a couple of drops from some of his receivers, most notably, even though the ball got tipped, so it was a little wobbly, but it was on Keenan's hands in the end zone. That one should have been a touchdown. We had a couple of routes where I'm wondering if the receiver missed a read or something, one of the receivers, because we had a couple of places where there were two receivers in the same vicinity. That was like, it was reminiscent of a lot of Getsy crap, to be honest. So I was a little bit concerned about that. But in the end, the Bears defense, special teams, they showed out. They came together. They weren't nervous. They made Will Levis fear for his life back there. They were coming at him. Jalen Johnson, he gave up one reception for -2 yards. Dude was the highest rated cornerback on the weekend. The dude is an absolute stud.
That recovery he made on the Calvin Ridley ball was
saved
sick.
Saved
now
the
it was
Probably saved the
underthrown. I mean, it underthrown, but the close on it was so good. I mean, Levis probably a 35-yard like deep ball or whatever, and I mean Ridley was 5 yards separation easy, and Johnson cut underneath, and it was beautiful.
Darryl Taylor.
Welcome to the team.
Darryl Taylor, the trade at the end of training camp there, basically. He showed out a couple of sacks, man. He was up the interior lineman was getting a lot of pressure also up the middle against that Titans, who have a pretty good offensive line, man. They were running the ball. Titans were running the ball.
Yep.
pretty well.
Pretty good
So,
defensive line too, honestly. I mean,
oh yeah, definitely. I mean,
nasty
that
defense.
Titans team is not as bad as I probably conceptualize them in my head, but I mean, the statistics on how lucky the Bears were to win that game, I'll say lucky because it's never happened before to be down 17 points and have your quarterback throw for less than 150 yards and come back and win the game with no offensive touchdowns.
I don't know if this is true because I haven't looked it up yet, but apparently Brian Callahan said something to the effect of, had we just punted on 1st and 10, we would have won that game. Like, he's
said,
not wrong.
He said if we had just punted on 1st and 10 every time,
yeah, like
we would have won that game.
Well, I mean, and he's not wrong is the crazy part about it. I mean, Will Levis flat.
The Bears recovered.
The defense
blocked the punt.
The defense played well. Yes, that's fair. The defense played really well. Like, I'm not taking it. I mean, it reminded me of that 05 team, right? Where you just basically let the defense, special teams do everything and then just don't turn over the ball, which, to Caleb Williams' credit, did not turn over the ball. So, like, it wasn't a good game, but it wasn't a bad game. Like, we've seen what bad quarterback play looks like. He was off. Like, we get it. There was some play calls there. I wasn't a huge fan of the deep ball on 3rd and whatever for 3 straight drives or whatever. Like, let's get something that's actually getting you yards, build some momentum and some confidence, and then start taking those shots. Like, let his nerves settle down instead of chucking. But that is what it is. That's going to come in time. But Levis, like, short of handing the ball to the defense, couldn't have done much more. Going to the ground, I know you're trying not to give up the sack, but to do a sidearm throw, basically just right into Stevenson's hand, like, I mean, what were you doing? Thank you.
Bad decision. And Caleb didn't make those kind of bad decisions.
Right.
He slid. That's cool. He had a scramble where he slid in a good spot. Like, I thought that he slid inbounds late in the game. He did control the clock there at the end and lead. So there was some positive aspects.
And I mean, let's be honest too. If he hits the ball on the deep ball on the left sideline to streaking Allen, and Allen doesn't drop the walk-in touchdown, this is a completely different conversation, right? The defense didn't have to be special. Caleb Williams had a really good game, right? I mean, you can go 2 or 3 throws and it changes everything. So, but I'm with you. I'm not panicking at all. I said it before. 9-8 is probably still where I'm at. Like, I'm not moving off of it. He's a rookie. We're going to have stuff like this. Can we win every game like this? Absolutely not. He's going to have to play better. And we got a tough task coming up on Sunday with the Texans in prime time. But, we'll see. Will the lights be too bright or can he settle in?
Right.
So,
yeah. I'm not discouraged. I'm not ready to change my prediction either. I know I was very positive, and he's going to have to be better, but I think he will be. I don't think it gets really worse than this. So,
yeah, and if that offense gets to where we saw kind of in the preseason, and that defense keeps playing that way, they're going to make some noise. They're going to make some noise.
There's an opportunity with Jordan Love out at least 3 weeks, 4 weeks,
Yeah, because Malik Willis is not an answer. But the Vikings may not be as easy as we thought they were going to be either. Luckily for us, we play like 5 out of our last 6 are division games. Like, I mean, we
don't play a divisional game until week 11. So
so we got time to get up in there. I don't want to spend a ton of time on Hard Knocks, because it's kind of past and we don't need. There were a couple things that I wanted to take out from it though, because I loved it. Number one, that chandelier was dope, where they had the different color glass cylinders based on how they did in the season. Way too many white cylinders for my liking, but it was still very cool. The staff seems to have really high hopes for Velus Jones that are not coming to fruition because
we didn't touch on him, and that's because I don't want his name in my mouth.
Yeah. There was 3 other moments that stuck out to me. Ryan Poles cutting Adrian Colbert was hard to watch. Just because, again, good dude, but like, I mean, I've watched a lot of Hard Knocks. I have never seen a GM get that emotional over releasing a player. Yeah, so like that really tells you like the type of person he is, how much he cares about his players, that sort of thing. I loved seeing that. And then these other 2 are also polls. He's got that sign that says sometimes the right way is the hardest way, right? And they were showing that along with that release, and I love that because he's been having to turn around this team and make some pretty difficult decisions along that way. Getting rid of Justin Fields was one of those, right? Trading him away like that, the fan base was kind of split on that one. And the final thing he had a quote in there that said, I'd love to keep everyone, but that's not where we are anymore. It's time to win now. Like, I absolutely loved hearing that. Like, listen, like, I love my guys. I'd love to keep them, but we are not that team anymore. That's where we were last year. That's where we were the year before. That time is over. Like, and I hope that permeates throughout that building of it's not just him, but it's the head coach, it's the assistants, it's the players. Our time is now. We are not just getting by anymore. So
I still have quick thoughts. A few doubts in the back of my mind about Eberflus, but Poles is definitely building a culture in the organization.
Yep.
And that's what you want. That's the kind of thing that can permeate and really make for a long-standing run of success if you can build good culture. And yeah, the right way is sometimes the hardest way or whatever. I've had some difficult times in my career because I've gone with the right way, which is the hard way, and made hard decisions and delivered hard news, but you're always better off for doing it that way. It's just, it shows your integrity, and it builds loyalty with the people around you. So yeah, the Adrian Colbert thing, brutal. Obviously they had history, but you know what else it did show? It did show that was a hard thing for him to do, but it was the right thing for him to do for the organization.
Yep.
So
absolutely.
Overall, Hard Knocks was fun to see our team on. It was a different kind of Hard Knocks from the other ones that we've seen in the past. And I don't know if maybe some of these other teams will take a note out of this playbook to try to make their organizations look a little bit better in the limelight, but maybe not as entertaining for the rest of the country, but for Bears fans, it was fun to see.
Yeah, so I wasn't shaking my head at you. I just happened to look down at a 3rd and 1 play. Yeah. All right. Looks like we got some Tales of a Degenerate is back. Is back. We got some live week 1 action. So
we do have some live bets going on. I think the only thing that I had 2 bets left that I was waiting on. I think I need about 2 more rushing yards from Deebo Samuel to get over 25 yards. I bet Deebo over 25 when I heard that McCaffrey was inactive. And then I got the Jets money line, which that one's not going to happen at this point. So,
yeah, and I don't think I'm going to get my George Kittle touchdown either that I need.
Overall, let's start with this little segment where I am making 5 picks a week a la the Westgate Super Contest. You make 5 picks versus the spread, and then you get a point for every game that you get correct. At the end, if you actually entered the Super Contest, it's $1,000. The winner, the best handicapper at the end of the season, wins over $1 million. So it's pretty one of the biggest handicapping contests probably in the world. But I don't have $1,000 that I am able to spend on that. Maybe if I do well enough, I'll get somebody to back me next year. But I went 2-3 this week. I had wins with the Bears -4 and the Saints -4. Lost with the Falcons. I had the Falcons -4, and I had the Giants +1, which that was probably the worst bet of it. And then I lost with Dolphins -3.5. Yeah.
Wow.
I lost Dolphins -3.5. They ended up only winning by 3, so that's a loss. But so 2-3 to start. Not the greatest, but not at least not a wash. Now, in places where I have actually put my money on the line, my start of the football season here have been on a little bit of a heater. So from September 1st, when college football started back up and everything, I am up 97%. So
where's my live clapping sound?
Been a good week and a half.
There we go.
Some highlights from this past weekend. I had the Illini on the money line at +154. I had Texas over Michigan -6.5. I had the over in 49.5 on the Packers-Eagles game. I live bet Isaiah Pacheco anytime touchdown in the second half and got +375 on that one. I had bet before the game in that Kansas City game, Xavier Worthy to score 2 touchdowns at +2,200. That one was pretty cool.
Yeah, that's nice.
And then yesterday, I didn't have the greatest day, but I did hit a 4-leg parlay of over 39.5 in the Cardinals, Bills, Seahawks win, Detroit's win, Bears win. So that one was +326. Little lesson for myself is I need to pool it so much on the parlays on Sundays and stick to some of these props because I've done pretty well on the props. I did hit anytime touchdown on Mason tonight. I hit a couple other things too.
Yeah, I am either a George Kittle touchdown, which probably not going to happen at this point in time unless they just decide to, really run it up, or a Garrett Wilson touchdown away from hitting my 2 parlays that I've got in here. Either one I will take because they'll pay out decently enough. I did okay yesterday, but most of mine was on the back of my DFS wins. So I ended up taking first in our, we'll call it home league for DK, and I cashed in the play action and the small milli maker or whatever for enough. So, but congrats on those hits, man. 97%. That's pretty good.
Hopefully I can ride this hot streak, not get too out of hand.
Let's. I'm with you though. I need to. You mentioned it yesterday. Writing down, like making notes of like what you want to bet, and then only betting that instead of opening the app and then just being like, oh, I think I'll bet this, because that's exactly what I did yesterday. And the next thing I was like, oh, I just bet like 75% of my bankroll. What am I doing? Like that's not.
That's
good.
where I get to. So
no. All right, man. Well, good for you. We'll keep that going, and we'll keep following up on your weekly Westgate. Maybe I need to start doing that on my own as well and just kind of see. But let's move on to our bad calls of the week so we can get out of here.
Absolutely.
See if we can finish up before a 2-minute warning. What do you say?
Sounds good.
All right. I will give you a little bit of breather, and I'll go ahead and go first on this one. So we did have, I wrote this down during the game and haven't looked back. Excuse me. And it was really early on in that Ravens Chiefs game. And what felt like every single play the Ravens ran, there was a flag for illegal formation because Ronnie Stanley was in the backfield, is what they were calling it. So it was a legal formation. Basically, they want him lined up. I think he can't be like behind like the belt line of the center or something like that is how that is. And it felt like it was like 3 or 4 plays in a row or 3 out of 4 plays, whatever it was. I went back and looked. It only happened twice, apparently, but it was such a big deal. Like, and every year it feels like the refs are trying to hammer in some sort of rule that they're really going to do. And they decided it was going to be this one, and it was going to be on this drive and on this team. And I don't necessarily have a problem with you trying to prove a point to the league, but prove it equally across the league, right? I'm not a Ravens fan. I don't have anything against them. I'm not like pro, like just, this is just as a fan watching. It was such a momentum killer, and in a game that felt like an AFC championship game in a lot of ways, to just squash momentum every chance you got. And then on the flip side of that, I can't think of the name of Kansas City's right tackle on the top of my head right now, but there was a play where he was like Jawan
Taylor.
Taylor, thank you. There was a play where he was probably lined up about as far back as Stanley was, and jumped before the ball was snapped, and nothing. So, like, if you're going to make the point for every team in every game, and then fix it. Don't do it 2 times in a row or whatever on one team and then be like, okay, we've made our point. No, you need to be consistent with it. So my bad call of the week goes to that reffing crew in the Chiefs game, or the Chiefs Ravens game, that was just, for whatever reason, really angry at Stanley that night.
The funny, ironic thing is this emphasis on this call comes from people whining about Jawan Taylor on the Chiefs in the Super Bowl and in the playoffs last year. Basically, being a yard behind the line, off the line, and
right,
not getting it called against them. And then so Kansas City comes out in the first game of the season and they start calling it against their opponent. So there's some funny memes out there. Patrick kissing the ref before the game and stuff like that. So
the internet never loses.
I mean, look, I cheer for Kansas City as a secondary team, but it pretty atrocious. It needs to be called across the board. I don't care how you're going to call a game, as long as it's across the board.
Yep.
Don't be calling them 3 or 4 times in the first quarter, because it just ruins the flow of the game.
Yeah, and that was my big thing on it is, one, obviously the unevenness of it, of, I'm with you. Like, if you're going to call it a certain way, call it a certain way, but you better call it evenly. Like, call it a certain way for everybody in every single game. But again, it was that flow of the Ravens were starting to move, and then you just yanked them right out of it. And who knows? You never know. That drive could have ended in a touchdown. It completely changes the game or whatever. Just call it the right way. So there's my bad call. The refs, their legal formation in the Ravens Chiefs game. What do you got for us?
All right, my bad call of the week goes to Deion Sanders. This came out that Deion Sanders won't let the Colorado band play the fight song after Shadur throws touchdown passes. Instead, he's having Shadur's song called "Perfect Timing" played over the loudspeakers. What? This guy, Deion, Showtime, whatever. The show's always about him. He is a reality TV show in himself. it's fun when they're winning and things like that, but then when things don't go their way, stuff doesn't look real well. He likes to send out blame, and as my bonus bad call, I'm gonna say the apple doesn't fall far from the tree, because Shador was in his post game interview blaming his offensive line for the poor performance that they had against Nebraska. He said, "Oh, did you see Dylan Raiola getting hit at all? What kind of leader is that?"
Yep.
Yeah, it speaks volumes. So I know
Yeah,
Shador is pegged to be a high draft pick next year, but those are the kind of things that get you to fall down a draft board.
yeah, those are big time red flags. I want to go back to the fight song thing, because that's fascinating. Real quick though, I don't know if you've noticed, we are about to the 2-minute warning, so we're just hit that 2-minute warning. Aaron Rodgers not playing. They pulled him, assuming just to protect him at this point in time. It's fascinating.
Wow.
Like I would think you want to give him as much timing as possible, but if you're afraid he's going to get hurt, all right.
They're out of this game, so they're going to figure they can get him through one game this year.
That's going to hurt my Garrett Wilson option for the touchdowns. But the fight song thing, number one, you're putting your QB above the school. Like that's my issue. Well, right, and there is that obvious tie there. You got to wonder, if it wasn't his son, would it still be the same thing? I can't say one way or the other, but listen, you and I were, we were born and raised Illinois fans, right? Neither one of us went to that school or whatever, but there's something special about being in your stadium and your team scoring and that fight song going on, and you just, singing along, cheering along, whatever with that. And to take that away from an entire student body, that's 100% a bad call. Like, I don't even think that's okay. Like, for me, that should be the athletic department coming in and going, I don't really care how much money you're bringing into it. This is where we're at. But here we are talking about them. So, what do I know?
Yep.
But yeah,
Deion
totally
Sanders,
a bad call.
You're a fool. Bad call.
All right. Any final thoughts before we get out of here, buddy?
Only thought is, man, it is good to have football back in my life. And
yes, sir.
We got another good one coming up on Thursday. We'll do this all over again. Prime time. We get to see Caleb under the lights. I hope that this past week got the jitters out and that he's ready to go Sunday night.
He don't get nervous.
Keep telling yourself that, kid.
He might not have been nervous. He might have been amped. Like, we'll look at it that way. Either way, yeah, it is so good to have football back. I realize that it may not play off as much. I'm still fighting a cold, but it has put some energy and some juice back into me. Hopefully next week I'm perfectly healthy and can keep going with this. Listen, buddy, always a pleasure talking football with you and just BS, and I really appreciate it. And to everybody who stuck around this long, God bless you. We really appreciate you. Again, please be sure to like and subscribe so you know when we put out a new episode. And until next time, try to avoid making another bad call.